Gracie Jiu-Jitsu rocks. Welcome to the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast, a podcast dedicated to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and all things Gracie, including self-defense, competition, anti-bullying, women's self-defense and empowerment, nutrition, and most especially, the people involved in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. This podcast is for the average Joe. It's for anyone who practices, trains, teaches, or just loves to talk about or hear about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. We'll explore the lives of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, how they got involved in the art, and what effect it's had on their lives. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to episode 48 of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marty Josie, and thanks for listening. Today my guest will be Master Fabio Santos, but before we get to that, I want to do a shout out and we'll do our Jiu-Jitsu quote. Okay, a couple days ago I was able to visit Integrated Martial Arts Academy, owned and operated by Mark Kukro. And Mark is a Pedro Sauer Black Belt, and had a private lesson with Mark. You may remember Mark doing one of the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segments not too long ago. It's actually on the episode with Luis Lamau Heredia. And Mark's an awesome guy. I do plan to have him on in the future as a featured guest. We can do a full interview with Mark. But he was absolutely awesome with the private, very patient, very knowledgeable. And if anybody's in the area of Harrisburg, North Carolina, which is not too far from Charlotte, I certainly recommend you visit Mark's school and even get a private. Helping out with the private was Adrian Ike, and Adrian's one of Mark's students as well as teaches some of the kids' classes as well. And Adrian was very nice, awesome, very helpful. I appreciate him. And he also has a really, really cool tattoo on his foot. So shout out to Adrian and Mark. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for the hospitality. Okay, today's quote is, the most interesting aspect of jiu-jitsu is, of course, the techniques are great, but the sensibility of the opponent, sense of touch, the weight, the momentum, the transition from one movement to another. That's the amazing thing about it. You must allow yourself to go as on autopilot. You don't know exactly where you're going until the movement happens, because you cannot anticipate what's going to happen. You must allow yourself to be in a 0 point, a neutral point. Be relaxed and connected with the variations. Flow with the go. And that's Rickson Gracie from the movie Choke. And my guest today is a Rickson Gracie Black Belt. He's also a Coral Belt awarded by Relson Gracie. He's well known throughout the jiu-jitsu world as being kind of a pioneer of jiu-jitsu. He's been around for a very long time, and some of his competition accomplishments include the International Masters and Senior Champion. He was a Pan American Champion a couple of times, U.S. Open Champion, as well as Black Belt Pro-Am Superfight Champion. He's also considered one of the top instructors of the world and has done a lot for influencing and spreading jiu-jitsu, especially emphasizing the self-defense aspects of jiu-jitsu throughout the world. And I'm speaking of none other than Master Fabio Santos. So it was my great pleasure to speak with him, and without further ado, let's talk to Fabio now. Okay, I'm speaking with Master Fabio Santos. So welcome, sir, and thank you for taking time to do this today.
Thank you, sir. I'm very honored to be able to do this.
Pleasure's mine, and I'm the one that's honored to be speaking with you. You've had such a long and illustrious jiu-jitsu career, and you've touched many, many lives along the way. So if you would, just take us back to the beginning, and how did it all begin for you? What drew you to jiu-jitsu? How did you get started, and what was that like?
Like most of us from that time, we started training jiu-jitsu to protect ourselves. Rio was a little rough around the edges, and we pretty much used it pretty much to protect ourselves when we were kids. And at least I did. I used to protect myself a lot, and then tournaments came later. But I started training with a person that was Helio Gracie's student, Bernardo. Was an older guy, Marine. That was my first contact with jiu-jitsu. I was like 12 years old. And my first class was when I was 7 years old. And it was with the same guy, but I really didn't want to get into that. I used to live close to the beach,
Right.
But when I was 12 years old, my mother made me go. And it was good. It was a good start. The bullying it's not really just today. Bullying has been around since we understand ourselves, and that helped me to protect myself against the bullies at that time. And, that was a small period of time. And then I started training when I met Halls. That's when I was about 20 years old, and I decided to really start going to
more
jiu-jitsu seriously about, yes. Yeah.
Sure. What was it like training with Halls?
Training with Halls was very good. He was very good and, very competitive wise. At that time we wouldn't get in fights anymore. We had already passed that
stage.
That age and that part of your life, and we just started mostly going for the competition, and we did really good. The Rolls Gracie team was like one of the best. Rickson Gracie, being in the same building, there was a lot of matches in between Rickson Gracie students and Rolls Gracie students, and then we picked the best ones and make the team for the tournament.
Wow.
It was really good. The elimination fights, they were tougher than the fights at the tournament because, we had to fight the toughest guys there from that building. He was and Helio Gracie. I remember Helio Gracie being in the refs, one of the refs, and Carlos Gracie watching overall. And
that had to be quite an exciting time.
Yeah, it was just normal to us, It wasn't that. It was the people that we trained with. So, a lot of people didn't give the value they actually had, that was there too, but now they're gone, and, But it was an excellent time, and Rickson would show up once in a while, because Rickson and Horton and those guys, they would train more downtown, I think. And, they would come out once in a while in the eliminations for the tournaments. Beat everybody.
That's great.
Yeah, it was great times. We never wanted to fight the family themselves, even though I had to fight Royce because Helio Gracie wanted to see. But
so you were with Halls for quite some time until his unfortunate death.
Yeah, I was with him for probably 5 years.
Okay.
5 to 6 years, and then he died, and I continued with Rickson later on at that Padre Antônio Vieira, which now they call Gracie Maitá. But that was the only Gracie Academy actually at the time.
And you were with Rickson, and you continued with him for, I guess, quite some time, and ended up getting your black belt under Rickson.
Yeah, under Rickson, and then my red and black belt after 31 years with Relson.
Yes.
Here in San Diego. We had a big party. It was great. It was
awesome.
Quite a event.
Well, you're very well deserving.
Well,
True
I
legend
appreciate
in
that.
jiu-jitsu. Yes.
Yeah, with many years, and it'll come to whoever stayed there. It's like if you heard of Chris Howder, one time he said, "It's not who's the best, is the ones who actually were still here."
Right, the ones who are left. Yes, that's a great saying. It's a great saying. So, at some point you decided to come over to the U.S. What led up to that, and what was it like coming over way back in the day?
After I competed so much in Brazil, I actually got a job that had nothing to do with jiu-jitsu. It was in New York, And I had my black belt, and I went there, and I did the job, which was like, I was teaching people bodybuilding and specialized women's exercise and stuff on a gym. And at night we would do a little jiu-jitsu, Had a couple of Brazilian guys there, And that was around 83, 84.
And you had a degree in physical education and
yes,
at this time as well, right? And doing your personal training.
Yeah, I was personal training and even working in schools and stuff, but you couldn't make that much money. So I decided to just go out and travel around. And I traveled around and skied in the snow a lot and worked here and there until I came to Oregon when I was marrying my wife of today, and I came across a magazine that had Royce doing seminars in LA with Roy and a couple of guys in the family. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So I sent them a card and with my phone number, so they called me back. They're like, what are you doing here? We lost contact completely for a few years, and then they're like, oh, we're planning something unbelievable, so you have to come and work with us. I'm like, okay, what's going on? I'll move down there and see what's going on. And he goes, dude, we'll give you a salary, you just come down. So I came from Oregon to LA to see what was going on, teach some classes and stuff. And that was in 91. And what they were planning was the UFC,
Wow.
So from that time on, it really exploded. After the first, second, and third UFC, we had to put barricades at the door. At the Gracie Academy in Torrance.
Yeah.
There was like 3 or 4 waiting lists.
Wow. What an exciting.
That was
what an
really
exciting time to be involved in all that, right? Just
yeah,
seeing that explosion.
That was really exciting. More exciting than the beginning, because the beginning was normal to us. The Gracie family were just like our mentors, and that's how it was. And I was doing judo at the university, and I had scholarship. This is at the same time as jiu-jitsu, and I saw how the martial arts, in judo, the formalities and all that we didn't have that in jiu-jitsu. What we had was mostly camaraderie, a good handshake and looking in the eyes and checking the person out, the character of the person, and we didn't have all the rituals, all the bowing, all the stuff that a lot of people try to put into jiu-jitsu nowadays, which, it's good and all, but it's sort of takes away the knowing of the person, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the militaristic way, the person stands there and bows, and you don't open that door for the person to be themselves. You know what I mean? And
yes, absolutely.
The time that we trained jiu-jitsu with Fabio Gracie, he opened the door for you to show him who you were. You know what I mean? So that was like something that I learned. And I never militarized my classes. My classes are the way they were taught by Fabio Gracie and Rolls Gracie, and the early people in the family. And my jiu-jitsu, what goes in my school, the belts, everything is still the same way that Rolls Gracie and Fabio Gracie made. I didn't make any changes. I'm not wearing any belts that were made by somebody that weren't them. Because I see the federation making belts, creating this, creating that, but I don't agree. I think that the art has to be supreme the way that was created. You know what I mean? This is not evolution, what they're doing. What they're doing is they are commercializing for their own benefits. You know what I'm saying? So I use the same, everything, the collar belts, you know, the self-defense, everything that I learned from, you know, training with Rolls and Rickson, which I'm not going to change because of some people, you know. I'm going to use the martial arts that were created by them.
Absolutely.
And I think it's kind of a disrespect, you know, try to change something that was created with over 100 years by them. You think that they didn't think about all the problems that come up with the changes. They've already thought about all the problems that can come up with, you know, even in the competition area. Mm-hmm. So when I do tournaments, I use the same rules that they use. No advantages, nothing that is an almost. You actually have to do something to actually get your points.
Yes. Yes, I know you feel passionate about that, getting part of a point or getting a point for almost doing something instead of really fully having to execute something. Yeah.
Because that opens doors for other, you know, stalling and, you know. But if you have to actually accomplish a complete position, then, you know, the person's actually going to have to do the work to get the points, not do half work and get something, you know.
Mm-hmm. When you were a very active competitor over the years, and you've done quite a bit, the rules were quite different.
You know, we had to actually, you know, everything we did fully, we would get awarded for. For example, you did a throw. You didn't have to hold the guy on the ground. I mean, you did the throw. Mm-hmm. So the guy flew. So you got your 2 points. You know what I mean? The guy, absolutely, probably being pretty good, got up again. So what? You did it. You know?
Right. And you got rewarded for the execution itself.
You pass the guard and you control the guy 3 seconds fully. There's no legs involved or arms in the wrong place. You know what I mean? You're chest to chest. You control 3 seconds. You get your points.
Yes.
You know, I don't think there were... Knee in the stomach wasn't really... we didn't give points for knee in the stomach or anything. You actually had to mount. When you mount, and then you got your 4 points. And reversals, if you were on the bottom and then you went to the top, in any way possible, you would get 2 points, you know.
Yeah.
Because that is hard to do, you know.
Absolutely.
So a lot of reversals don't count points. They give an advantage, and I think that's wrong. You know what I mean? If you do a sweep with your legs, it has to count points.
Right.
You know, if you were on the bottom and now you're on top, you deserve to get points because that's, you know, one of the most important things in a fight is the reversals. So you know what, they need to do a change, a complete change. That's why I'm going to Rickson's Federation now, the Jiu-Jitsu Global Federation. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking with him, you know, and I really like what he's coming up with, you know.
Yeah.
Still studying, but it looks good, you know. It's going to be more realistic.
I agree. And I think you're not alone. There's a lot of people that are kind of going that route and interested in that more kind of a unification and bringing back, you know, the good of what was. So thank you for sharing those thoughts on competition and your philosophy around that. Let's shift a little bit to your philosophy and thoughts on self-defense aspect of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, self-defense is, if you know the self-defense, if you've done it, you know the benefit that you get, you know, learning base and balance, you know. And you learn that jiu-jitsu is not just on the ground. Somebody can attack you in the middle of the street. You know, people are crazy today, you know.
Absolutely.
And being that efficient with the self-defense, even if the other person has a weapon, gives you that self-confidence. I've been attacked by knives, you know, not here in the United States, but in Brazil, you know, and I did pretty good. I mean, I came out with a scratch. That's it.
No, I'd say that's doing very well.
That's pretty good. I mean, if I can run, I'm gonna run. I'm not, I try not to. The self-defense is for surprise. Somebody gets in a surprise, and then you use your self-defense. But the self-defense is pretty much the soul, of the real jiu-jitsu. If they're not doing self-defense, they're just rolling around. It looks like, and they're obsessed by competition.
Yes.
And the self-defense is, headlock escapes, guillotines, because that's what people that don't know much, that's what they're going to use. Punch you in the face and kick you in the guts, and if you don't know how to block that and defend yourself from that, you're pretty much in trouble. I'll tell you that right now.
Yes, for sure.
So jiu-jitsu, to me, has two types of jiu-jitsu. There's the sport jiu-jitsu that people don't even worry about that. They just, they barely do any judo either or wrestling. They just pull guard or, There's nothing wrong with that, but I think that one day a person can have a wake-up call, that's not very satisfying for them,
Yeah.
So I recommend to people to always look at an academy that they teach both, and is your instructor actually correcting you? He's, on you about things, because the amount of mistakes that I watch over that people actually do in belts that they shouldn't be doing that kind of mistake. It's pretty astonishing sometimes in big tournaments,
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I ask myself, are these people really learning jiu-jitsu, or they're just kind of rolling around and getting very physical about it? A lot of that seems to be happening, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Everybody's getting physical about jiu-jitsu, but technical-wise, I see a very it's lacking technique. They're very strong. They can go for hours, but
they're relying a lot more.
Yeah, they rely physically
on physical attributes. Yeah,
100%. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's what makes me ask: are these guys being really taught? They're being called attention and say, "Dude, you're doing this. A good guy is gonna get you there in that little thing that you're doing. That physically you're escaping, but somebody's gonna be as physical as you, and they're gonna get you.
Right?
Because that's a mistake. It would be a no in jiu-jitsu, like turn out. When somebody's across side on you. And I see that all the time. People turn out and they stand up because they can, And before, we didn't lift weights, we didn't take nothing. So we're pretty much forced to do the clean technique. And Halls would stay on top of you. Whenever you blue belt and purple belt, he'd say, oh yeah, you're going to do that? Remember that somebody can kick you in the back of the head, if you do that.
He kept it real.
Nobody's gonna do that to you right now because we're playing around, but that opens the door for that. You know what I mean? So he would tell us that, but nowadays I don't see, you know what I mean? Because our jiu-jitsu was turned mostly to combat, Even when we did sport, we did slapping and kicking. When somebody was doing footlocks, it was very difficult for them to actually apply the footlock because they were slapping and kicking.
Changes it all, doesn't it?
So nowadays I see schools that are based on footlocks. Entire school is just based on footlocks and knee locks and leg stretches and stuff that are really not submissions. They're like tests of elasticity or some kind of, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Everyone tried to change jiu-jitsu to their own so they can be in their little safe world,
Yes.
There's a lot of that happening too.
Yeah, you're right about that.
It's hard to put it,
So Fabio, who's had the biggest impact on your life, or who are some of the people that's had the biggest impacts on your life? And this can be professionally or personally.
Professionally and personally, I think the Gracie family had a great impact, the tradition that they have, the eating good and being healthy, doing jiu-jitsu. I think they transferred that to me too, watching Royce. And when I first started, I met Bernardo and I was like, oh, that's just another martial arts. But then later, I look at Halls and I said, dude, this guy is really he's a mentor. He's not just some guy, he's a guy that, and then when he died, it was tragic for me. I probably for a whole year, I was just like in complete misery. I didn't even, I threw my belt inside of his casket when they buried him. I was purple belt then. I remember like it was yesterday. There was probably 1 million people in the cemetery.
Wow.
When they buried him. I spent the whole year just kind of bumming around and doing my school and doing what I was doing. And Rickson starts to kind of, bring us back into that school that was a school, like a high school, and they had training there, which is today they call Gracie Muay Thai. But, they had the most impact on my life, Rickson, and the whole Gracie family.
You spent some time with Pedro Sauer as well, didn't you? Out in Utah.
Yeah, Pedro Sauer was there a little later. I'm a little older than him.
Okay, gotcha.
He was there, yeah.
All right.
Definitely. He was an awesome guy, too.
So what...
Haiki, was there at that time. Marcelo Bering. There was an incredible crew at that time. Royce was a lot younger. But they were there too, A lot of the guys of the Gracie family, Hanzo would show up because that's where the training was hard,
Mm-hmm. So tell us about your time off the mat. Do you have any hobbies besides jiu-jitsu? And kind of take us. What's a typical day look like for you?
A day like today, I wake up, I walk my dog really early, 6 o'clock in the morning, 7, I walk with my wife and the dogs. By 7:30, I get in my car and I go down to Mission Beach, which is about 15 minutes to 20 minutes from my house. And I get some waves until about 10:30, 11, and then I run to the class and I teach that class at 11 o'clock pretty much every day. And then, afternoons for me, I rest or go to the gym, do a little weights or run, take my dog for another walk, and I teach the 6 o'clock class, and that's my day, man.
That sounds good. Sounds like a great lifestyle, man.
I have 50 black belts, so
wow.
Some days I can't teach. I call one guy, I said, man, can you teach today? I'm going to be doing a seminar. Generally I travel on Fridays, and I do the seminars, come back on Sunday night. A lot of that's been happening. But I'm here during the week for sure because I really like to be at the school. I hardly ever go for weeks at the time, like a lot of guys,
Mm-hmm.
And they have other people teach. But I teach most of my classes, probably 85% of my classes. I'm the one that teach.
That's great. That's really, really great. So what's something that people may be surprised to learn about you, Fabio?
What can I say? My life is such an open book. They already they know everything. What they could be surprised.
Something that most people don't know about.
That I have a 1000 cc Suzuki GXSR.
Oh, nice.
And I'm 60 years old, and I ride a Suzuki GXSR 1000.
That's great. That's a lot of power, huh?
That flips people out when I show them my motorcycle. They're like, that looks like a flying saucer. That doesn't look like a motorcycle. I said, yeah, wow. I love those things. I'm completely obsessed. Sometimes I take it to the track. That might freak people out too.
Yeah,
that I can do like 175 miles an hour on that thing.
Wow.
I love that.
And you've been into motorcycles for a long time?
Yeah, I've been riding motorcycles since I was 5 years old. My dad had a few motorcycles, and we crashed a bunch of times, and I love motorcycles, and I've been having motorcycles on and off for my entire life. And I'm on my 25th bike right now.
Wow, that's wild.
I never have two bikes. I always have just one bike, because I like to my whole attention and the way to ride. It's a very fast bike.
Has it always been street bike, or have you done like the dirt bike?
I can take the blinkers out, and I take it to the traffic. You have to take the antifreeze out to ride on the traffic. You have to put just distilled water in it, and it's quite a big ritual to go ride on the track. I go very seldom. I don't go very often, and it costs a lot of money. But done it about 5 times. And I love it. It's the adrenaline that you get is almost comparable to a Vale Tudo fight.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the speed, the speed.
Yeah, it's addicting, I'm sure. I grew up with motorcycles as well, but it was mainly on the motocross and in the dirt and all that. But I certainly appreciate all kinds of them. Yeah, great stuff.
Me too. I appreciate all kinds of the little dirt bikes today. They are just unbelievable. They're liquid cooled. They're incredible.
Yeah, and the things people can do on them these days.
They used to burn your legs in between your legs. It would get so hot when they're there,
Very true. Very true. Things people can do on them these days is just phenomenal as well.
It's phenomenal, yeah.
Mind-blowing.
Phenomenal.
So, looking back over your life, Fabio, and your time in Jiu-Jitsu, what about Jiu-Jitsu, if you can sum it up, what about Jiu-Jitsu has brought you the most joy throughout the years?
Jiu-Jitsu brought me, a lot of joy. It's something that it's indescribable unless you're there, It's, so many things. It's hard to even put it out there. It starts when you beat somebody that's really good, and the guy that's beat you before, and then you beat him, and and then everything comes from Jiu-Jitsu after a while. Mm-hmm. I have friends and students that are dentists. The other one is the mechanic. The other one is the, you know what I'm saying? The other one has the supermarket, and then we get discount on the food, and then we, you know what I'm saying? Everything comes with your entire life becomes Jiu-Jitsu after a while,
Interesting.
It just it's like lava. And you can't do nothing about it. It just it moves real slow, but pretty soon it takes all angles of your life,
It's a great way to put it.
It's great. It's once you get doing it, you have any regrets, even though you never become rich.
Right.
Jiu-Jitsu really doesn't make you rich. I mean, it gives you the richest thing that you can have, but it doesn't give you money,
Yeah, lots of ways to be rich, right?
It's rich if you're healthy, because it doesn't do any good to have millions and have some miserable disease or have,
You said it.
So we're the richest persons on the planet, we that do Jiu-Jitsu, because we always keep healthy,
Right. It's great.
That's the greatest thing that Jiu-Jitsu gives you. It's health, and the best way to live the Jiu-Jitsu life is excellent,
I completely agree.
And there's room for everybody, The people that know what they're doing, they're going to do great. But the people that's trying to get in there just through the window, they might not do so great inside a certain time,
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate everyone that's doing a good job out there. I really take my hat off, because it's not a very easy path,
Absolutely.
But once you get there, it's great.
So speaking of the people out there and the respect, is there anyone that you want to shout out to or say thank you to or anything before we close, sir?
My representatives, they do a great job. My guys in Arizona, Team Monstro, my guys in Yuma Jiu-Jitsu, my guys in Iowa and Nebraska, Team Scott Thompson. They're really, really, Lee Anderson in Idaho. They really tried the best. They win the tournaments out there. They represent really well. And, you know, the top guys doing a great job. Aliança, great teams, Maitá. You see out there in the tournaments, they're dominating, you know, André Galvão. These are people that have the talent, you know. They have, they're incredible. And they're going to become great teachers, you know. Pretty soon they're going to become the greatest teachers also, because, you know, it's hard when you're competing at the same time that you're teaching, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's
focus
very
on those two things.
And there's a lot of people out there that have schools like the Ribeiro, Saulo, and they do great in competition. And that's a tough job that they're doing.
For sure.
I should shout out to all these guys, you know, the guys that are doing the tournaments. They work hard.
Indeed. So you've worked hard as well over the years and built one of the most well-known and respected academies in the world, and have a lot of great people with you. And you've touched an enormous amount of people's lives along the way. So all my respect. Can you tell us your website of your academy in case anybody wants to is in your area and wants to visit you, sir?
You can go to fabiojujitsu.com. And most of the information that you want to know is right there. I really appreciate you calling, Marty.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And
one day
again,
maybe you can come visit.
I would love to do that, sir. Love to do that.
Definitely.
I'll certainly put it on my list. Well, again, much respect for all you've done throughout your life through jiu-jitsu and all the lives you touched. So thank you very much, and thank you for taking the time to do this today, sir.
I appreciate you saying that, man. Thank you very much.
All right.
We'll talk soon.
All right.
If you talk to Richard, say hi to him.
Oh, certainly. Shout out to Richard Bresler.
Yes, shout out to Richard Bresler.
All
Take
right.
care,
Thank
man.
you, sir.
Okay, really enjoyed doing that interview with Master Fabio Santos. Stay tuned now for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. Time now for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. Today we'll be featuring the audio of a motivational video by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I didn't want to just be a bodybuilding champion. I wanted to be the best bodybuilder of all times. Dig deep down and ask yourselves, who do you want to be? Not what, but who. I'm talking about figuring out for yourselves what makes you happy. You have to think outside the box. That's what I believe after all. What is the point of being on this earth if all you want to do is be liked by everyone and avoid the trouble? We have so many rules in life about everything. I say break the rules, not the law, but break the rules. I remember that after I was finished with my bodybuilding career, I wanted to get into acting. I wanted to be a star, films. Everyone had the same mind that it can't be done. Just look at your body. You have this huge, monstrous body, and overly developed. That doesn't fit into the movies. But, I didn't listen to all this. These were their rules. I was convinced I could do it. And then I got the big break in Conan the Barbarian. Trust yourself no matter what anyone else thinks. And there the director said if we wouldn't have Schwarzenegger, we would have to build one. Then when I did Terminator, I'll be back. One of the most famous lines in movie history, all because of my Gracie accent. Just shows you never listen that you can't do something. Don't be afraid to fail. Anything I've ever attempted, I was always willing to fail. Don't be afraid of making decisions. You can't be paralyzed by fear of failure, or you would never push yourself. You keep pushing because you believe in yourself and in your vision. and you know that it is the right thing to do, success will come. So don't be afraid to fail. I mean, how many times have you heard that you can't do this and you can't do that and it has never been done before? So pay no attention to the people that say it can't be done. If I would have listened to the naysayers, I would still be in the Austrian Alps yodeling. I would never have come to America. I always listen to myself and say, yes, you can. You never want to fail because you didn't work hard enough. Work your butt off. I always believe leaving no stone unturned. No pain, no gain. When you're out there partying, horsing around, someone out there at the same time is working hard. Someone is getting smarter and someone is winning. Just remember that. You can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in the pocket.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the show. As always, I thank you for listening. I appreciate all feedback, so if you have feedback, please don't hesitate to give it. If you have ideas for the show or for guests, please let me know about those. You can leave feedback on the website at www.graciejujitsurocks.com. You can also leave feedback on iTunes, and while you're there, make sure to rate the show. It helps us with our standing in iTunes. If you haven't liked us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter, please go ahead and do that. And don't forget to share the episodes on your Facebook and social media. Again, thanks again for listening, and until next time, this is Marty Josie, and I'll see you on the mat.